Welcome into the PB&J Trench Talk podcast. I am your host, Jared, Draft Guy Jared, at Draft Guy Jared. It's my full legal government name. And my co-host, Parker Blake, which is probably actually his government name.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. We're coming at you live for officially episode 1 because we wanted to tie it in with week 1 of the NFL season. Whole lot of NFL going on, whole lot of college football, whole lot of trenches to dive in.
Dude, that's just a lot of football coming at us all at once, man. Lots of football this weekend. Lots of football.
So much football. I thought I was prepared for the amount of football that would go. I was not. I feel kind of drained, to be honest with you, from all of the football. But I feel like I will be reanimated when the Monday Night Football music hits.
I'm telling you, man, I woke up this morning and was just like, wow, I did nothing with my weekend and it was glorious. But
it was awesome.
I hit practice this morning and I was gassed, man. And now I feel like I'm in the same boat where I'm like,
were you like standing on the field like, oh, I have to do more of this football stuff?
We're really still doing this, huh? We're really still doing it. But I think you're right, man. It's fun to prime. We're doing our show. We got Monday Night Football coming up. I feel like I'll be ready to go here now, 10 o'clock tonight when I get to bed. But I'm excited, man. Football is back.
Let's start with your team. How did they do Friday night?
We won. We're out of our slump. We won the first 2, lost the second 2, and we won again.
Very nice.
Pretty solid fashion. We won the homecoming game. That's what matters.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Did you were you crying at were any of your Hogs nominated for Homecoming King?
I'm trying to think. I think we had so many players. I think my guard might have been in court, but don't
you gotta
quote
get the
me on
Hogs
that.
some love, man. You gotta vote them in for your home.
Gotta get them some love, man. You gotta.
All right. And then before that, did you watch the Detroit Kansas City season opener? Let's start there because it was the first official football game of the season.
And what a game that was to get this wacky NFL season that we all know is coming started, right? Like that game just felt weird, and it was weird in all the best ways, I think.
All the best ways. Nobody could catch. That was fun.
No.
Poor Patrick Mahomes was dropping dimes, and it was just like he was throwing the cinder blocks out there, man.
Wasn't it
would
like
have been better if they had just put a couple of trash cans on the field, and he just had to huck it into garbage cans like you see.
The first thing I thought of, I was like around halftime, middle of third quarter, was I was like, remember that Super Bowl where Patrick Mahomes was literally like banging footballs off a dude's face masks and they still couldn't catch them?
He didn't have an O-line.
Running for his life behind a backup O-line, banging footballs off your face, and somehow, he was the only person playing in that game. That's what it felt like on Thursday.
Let's start there because shout out to the Detroit Lions defensive line, who we pegged as an underrated unit in our preview. They did not let a whole lot of runs get through there. So the Chiefs really had a hard time getting the run established. I think they had just a couple of big plays that led to their scoring drives. They couldn't get anything done on the run on the ground.
And that's what you love to see when we got a unit that we're a little higher on. What you want to see is stopping the run. A lot of these guys can get to the quarterback. You're getting all these high-end draft picks that their whole job is to get to the quarterback, but not a lot of people appreciate stopping the run or establishing the run. So I think there needs to be some appreciation had for good run.
It's a big part of my evaluation process whenever I'm looking at draft prospects. If you can't play the run, I'm going to knock your score. I love guys that I can see the most fundamental, the part of football that has been around the longest, the run game. If you can do that part, I can trust you to do more other fundamental aspects of the game. So I love watching guys who can run the football and stop the run. And Detroit showed they could do both. Their offensive line also graded down the Chiefs D-line, and Chris Jones being out definitely seems like a problem, especially in the run game.
Which they got that deal done. He's back. Chris
Did
Jones,
they? I missed it.
Chris Jones is back. I was leaving the office checking my socials, and I was like,
I missed it. I was setting up for the podcast. What's the
look at you
deal?
being a nerd. I'm watching.
I
I'm into
know.
football, Jared.
How much
Yeah,
you get?
he will be back allegedly. I can't say I confirmed it with anything realistic, but it was all over my timeline. So I'll let you investigate that on your own.
Yeah,
but I do think it was exciting to see the Lions just winning the trench battle, and it's such an underrated part of football, I think, in general, and that's why we started doing this show, so we can just talk about the big nasties in the middle. But I think if you can win that trench battle, it'll really change the whole scope of the game. The whole scope of the game.
Okay, it looks like they just signed a 1 year with no okay, it's not it's just a 1 year extension.
Correct.
No money's been said yet, so I guess we'll check that before we end the show to see if we get any numbers or anything crazy like that. It'd be wild if it was north of the 30 million or whatever he was asking for.
He gets it, man. They don't want to pay him.
That's wild. That's crazy. I didn't even know that. Live reaction on the podcast.
But yeah, man, I think go ahead.
Oh, no, that's awesome. Kansas City's going to get a huge piece that we saw was an issue. I'm glad they got that worked out relatively soon because I don't think that one could have lingered long. Who do they play next week? Do we know? Do we know offhand?
Oh, man, no. But
man, I just had all these.
I just had this. I just closed
the tabs I was closing were the tabs I need now.
The Jags. We're playing the Jags.
The Jags.
No, okay. Wait, is that right? It looks like
it would be a first place schedule. I'm not surprised if it's the Jags.
September 17th, Chiefs Jaguars.
Yeah. Perfect game to have Chris Jones back.
Yes, it is.
Trevor Lawrence looked real good yesterday too.
Man, that's big for them though. And like we said, I mean, they missed him. They missed him on Thursday.
Yeah. So good job by the Lions beating the defending Super Bowl champions opening night. It was exciting football. I bet the Chiefs. So immediately started my L's for the weekend on the gambling front. It was bad. It was so bad. I should have held off for at least a little bit longer until we had some more definitive answers. All right.
You're just far from the hip, brother. That's like betting on the preseason, man. You just gotta let them rip. Just let them rip.
All right, let's stick with the NFL. We'll talk about college after we're all done with this stuff. The next game I have in my notes is San Fran and Pittsburgh.
Hold on. You're telling me you're going to skip this case, the biggest story out of the Kansas City game, Jared.
Oh, good call.
The biggest story out of the Thursday night game wasn't the lack of receiving. Wasn't the great play by the Lions. What was it, Jared? Do you happen to recall what the biggest story out of Thursday night football was?
Everybody on Twitter became an O-line expert all at once when it came to Jawan Taylor and not only his snap timing, but his alignment.
That was a mess.
It was pretty
all
funny
over
to
the
watch.
Timeline. And then you got the commentator saying he's lining up in the slot. Like you got all kinds of off the wall commentary on that all night and the next day. It was just a mess, man.
It really was. A lot of people showing that, number one, the best weapon a tackle has is his get off. And Jawan Taylor was showing he had elite get off compared to the rest of his teammates on Thursday. That's all it was. The alignment thing, I bet he talked to the judge and said, hey, I'm going to do this the whole game. If it's an issue, let me know. And he just kept pushing it, and the ref never said anything. So kudos to Jawan Taylor for playing the game, man. That's what it's about. If it's not called, it's not a penalty. That's how O-line works. Like, people need to stop worrying so much about it. Especially, poor guy was playing Aiden Hutchinson. That guy has elite get-off. Like, use the field, man. Like, use what you can to win. That's your job.
But I think the most underrated things, I'm glad you touched on it, because I think people don't understand that a lot of flags don't just come, especially in the trenches. You usually get your warning, your second warning, and then they'll start letting them rip on you. But the refs they're gonna talk to you if they see something that's a little off. They're not just gonna throw ticky-tack flags. I think we all know that at this point. We've all watched football once or twice. They're not just gonna throw ticky-tack flags just here and there just to throw them. They're gonna say, hey, you're a little deep, or they're going to let your coach know, hey, your right tackle's a little bit in the backfield. If they think it's a problem, they'll make it a problem. But obviously, they didn't think it was. And I mean, you're talking about get off and jumping this, like timing the snap. Like he was looking like Lane Johnson-esque getting off the ball.
Yeah,
And I think
it was great.
Any advantage these guys can get. I mean, your O-line, you're less athletic than the edge rushers you're playing, especially at tackle, right? We talk about all these athletic freaks, and then you got these big guys that are big and powerful, but they're moving backwards. You're moving backwards in pass protection against some of the best athletes on the field.
You are lined up in sprinters. They're in sprinter stances,
man.
Trying to get there as fast as possible. And you just let them be out there. Who cares if he's lining up in the slot?
Any little tiny advantage that you can find as an O lineman, especially a tackle, as far as you can push that gray line, man, I say go push it. Go do what you can for yourself, because honestly, it's not a fair fight to start with. So if they give you a little edge, I'm gonna take it.
Exactly. Yeah, it was so funny watching people try to argue. It's like, guys, come on. And I know the broadcast just did not help at all.
No,
it did not.
Never does. Never does.
And while we're down this road, rip moves are not holds. For the love of God, rip moves are not holds. They're not holds. If a defender rips, an offensive lineman is allowed to hold through the rip. It's part of you can't, that's not a holding. I see so many clips every year of people oh, this is a hold. Oh, this is a hold. And it's the most common way to get someone's hand off. Use a rip move.
If it's happening that often and it's not getting called, you should probably, and I love it every year because Duke will post the rule from the NFL rule book. And just I'll retweet that every time I see. It's one of those tweets where I'm like, yes, please push this out there. And I gotta say, I mean, I coach very small high school football, and I have to say that's one rule in the NFL that I am so appreciative of. Because you know how many holding calls we take a year on rip moves because they don't understand. I'm sure it's classified different in our rule book, but I'm so glad the NFL addressed that, because you have to impede the rusher. If your hand's just there and he's still rushing free, you're not clotheslining him. They're not going to throw the flag because you're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
Again, take the advantage when you can get it, man. Stop trying to hinder O-line play, man. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway,
so the tangents are done. I'm glad we got out of the way. So we can talk some damn football. Let's move on. We did cover all of that, right? We got the whole Detroit Kansas City game.
I hope so. That's all I remember from the game is Juwan Taylor. The tackle that plays right.
That's so fair. I got so into the minutia of the game that I completely overlooked the big talking part of the game.
Because you have to find other points out of that game, and you're like, wait a second, we gotta cover this. Anyway, what game you got next? You want to chat about a little bit?
Let's do San Francisco, Pittsburgh, because I need to take my L as early as humanly possible so we can just move on. Because in our preview show, was talking a little negatively about San Francisco, how I was worried about their O-line, how I was worried that their D-line wasn't as deep, and all of that was wrong. They dominated the point of attack against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I am super high on, except for Cam Hayward got hurt. That's such a bummer. That is such a good unit with Cam Hayward in there. Good thing they're deep, but man, that's a loss, not only from just a play standpoint, but as a leader on that front. So that's kind of a bummer, but hats off to San Francisco. They dominated the trenches on both sides. They made Pittsburgh look like they hadn't played all of their starters for all three preseason games. And it was just a showing by the Niners.
Yeah, that Niners team looked half decent out there, I'd say. And I think it's funny. I love that the Steelers have gone through what they've gone through in the past 4 weeks of games, because there's all this conversation around player starters in their preseason. You have to get reps together. They have to. I know some teams, they'll play all their guys all the time, and sometimes some teams don't want to play any of their guys. And I think it's fun to watch teams that are very on one end of that spectrum perform, because you're did it help them? And in Pittsburgh's case, it doesn't feel like it helped them.
Not this time. I mean, I do love Tomlin's quote about that. Is like, if you're a boxer, you're gonna need to spar before you get in the ring. Like, that's totally like.
I can appreciate
it makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
that is a Super Bowl contending team in the 49ers, and they let everyone remember.
Yeah.
They're here for one thing and one thing only.
It's a better quote when it works.
Yes, it is.
And I mean, they got to figure that stuff out quick, especially their O-line. The Niners beat them up. Shout out Steve Wilks. I feel like a big reason is because Wilks came in and he kind of added his own little flavor to the defense. They sent a lot more pressure and stuff after Kenny Pickett, and I think it really worked the Steelers front.
No, for sure. And that's where I know we're high. I'm high. I don't want to speak for you, but I've been excited to watch Broderick Jones play. I think it was a good first week. Like the film that he's going to be able to like get out of that and the learning experience he's going to be able to get is going to be great for him. And I'm personally excited to get this all 22 and take a glimpse into how he looked from like a better angle, not the broadcast angle. But I'm really excited to kind of watch how he handles himself in that game.
Yeah. He's kind of got the murderer's row of first gigs. He not only does he have Nick Bosa, who's the highest paid defensive player in the NFL in his first game, he's got Myles Garrett coming next week. They play on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, he's got a rough road ahead as a rookie, but man, if there's someone that can hang, man, he's one of them.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. So let's move on to the Browns because we're Cincinnati guys, and that was rough, man. Those Browns came to play. Hats off to them because we even said in our preview, we loved everything the Browns did in the offseason to fortify their defensive line, but we had to see it to believe it. And by God, we saw it. I think they took the clip of me and just like posted it, and I'm just like sitting in their locker room and throwing darts at my face or something. I felt like such a dum-dum because on paper, it looks phenomenal, and then it played out phenomenally. We were talking about it before the show, having competency around Myles Garrett makes this unit so dangerous. If you guys have guys that can just complete their task, do their job next to Myles Garrett, he can be the alien all the time. We saw it with the hesitation over the center. He's taking on chips and stuff. Like, he was doing his Myles Garrett thing. It probably helps that he's 100% healthy and it's the first game of the season. But, man, I was super impressed by the Browns.
Well, I think that's huge. And I think this is a great example that a lot of teams should take into consideration. When you have a star, especially in the trenches, I mean, we've seen Myles Garrett, we've seen Micah Parsons. Like, when you have these big name guys that you know are freaks, they're aliens that are just going to have their way with players, all you need to do is surround them with competent talent, right? Just give me a few other guys that will do their job so we can just let X player go crazy, right? We just want to let this guy do his thing. You guys just don't get in the way and don't be a liability. And the Browns have finally gotten to a point where they have that. And now I'm very excited to see the season that Garrett's able to have because of that. Because, I mean, now you have Za'Darius on the other side of him, who's also a very above average pass rusher. So they're going to be able to get some nice pressure this year. But they held down the middle of the field pretty well, man. Like, this defensive line looks good. And I'm excited to see what they're able to do, man. I'm just excited to see what they can do.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, I kind of like that you're like they build a competency around a star. It's kind of funny how the Bengals have done that on their defensive line because their star is the person nobody talks about in DJ Reader. And they have built competency around him. Sam Hubbard, one of the best run defending edge players in all of the NFL. Trey Hendrickson is one of the most consistent, brutal pass rushers, and he had a day yesterday. He beat the tar out of Jedrick Wills, and it was fun to watch. He's like a tiny hammer that just keeps smacking you. And like by the fourth quarter, you're just tired of it.
Just sick of it.
Bengals Sands posted a video of like a little montage of Trey's like wins, his pass rush wins. And there's one where he's sitting there chopping under Jedrick Will's inside arm.
Mhm.
And I can only imagine like wearing someone down over. The dude doesn't wear gloves or anything. He's sitting there and he's punching like open hand. Like that's gotta suck. And it like you hear other players like on the player 100 list like saying like what a pain in the ass he is to go against. So like the Bengals defensive line also should get a shout out. It was just offense couldn't get anything going. Offensive line didn't play atrocious. It was just weird conditions. The skill players for the Bengals couldn't get going, and the Browns ended up wearing down the defense for the Bengals. So
yeah, that was just such a weird game, but it was fun to watch because I feel like it was a lot of good. These sloppy games turn into defensive games, and that's
it was good for us because it was the trench battle. Like it was so gross and mushy out, it turns into just like this slobber knocker of a game.
And those are just fun to watch. Like I'm sure like the 50-50 games are fun and all.
Oh yeah,
but I am here for these games where it's just like, oh, are we going to be able to get off the ball? How is this blocking going to look? Are we going to be able to get any pressure? Are we going to be slipping and sliding all over the place like that Bills playoff game last year? Like it's just all the different variables and seeing how these high-end athletes handle that. And then just the good content you get out of that, the good battles, the good reps, the good clips. It's just fun, man. This football like that's just fun for me.
Yeah. It like if you're wanting to watch trench film, this would be one of the best games of the weekend to watch. Like it was just a knockdown brawl.
Yeah.
Like beat out brawl and the Browns just ended up wearing the Bengals down.
And then we talked about rookies with the Steelers. DeJuan Jones ends up having to get thrown into the game for the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
And
looked like he'd been playing there all. He looked like he played there
right on in there.
It was incredible, man.
I'm so excited for that kid, man. I can't believe he fell as far as he did. He's gonna do some things.
Yeah, it's just unreal stuff. I mean, I had a first round grade on him. I thought he was that good, and to see him go in the fourth, and now he's like already starting, it just like makes me want to pound my head into a wall.
Well, it's just frustrating. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing, guys?
Are we watching football? Or are we not watching football?
I get that there's other variables, but man, a guy like that, you just got to swing on.
Yeah, for sure. What do you want to move on to your poor Texans?
Dude,
we'll just finish out the AFC North. what happened to the Texans, dog?
I don't know, man. I don't feel good about what happened. I didn't like watching what happened. It was
I'll tell you what happened, man. Kenyon Green went on IR.
Yes, he did.
Titus Howard's going to miss a couple of games, I think. So they're already shuffling dudes up front. So that's
like we talked.
And Juice Scruggs is out too. Yeah, that's a tough look.
Yeah, no, we talked about how they added all these great new pieces and how they had this unit that's going to come in and they're going to look great even though they're new together, and then they just deleted 60% of the line, and it's like, oh well. That's unfortunate. We got to see Jarrett Patterson play, who I was very low on in the draft process. He only gave up 3 pressures, no sacks.
Nick Broker went there too to fill in some of their depth.
Yeah, we're gonna see. That's not looking great for my conference winner unit.
Yeah. Well, mine for the AFC East is kind of in the same boat because I was talking very highly of the Patriots' offensive and defensive line. I will say their defensive line, very good, very elite. Their offensive line, just throw it in the garbage. They had all three rookies starting on their interior offensive line. I guess Andrews is hurt. They have both David Andrews and now Jake Andrews, and they both play center. So I
like Jake Andrews coming out. He was out of Troy,
But I saw their inactive list, and it was Michael Onwenu and Cole Strange. I'm like, what is happening? Riley Reef is on IR. I'm never prognosticating anything ever again.
I was going to say, never let me and Jared support your O-line because they're just going to – it's not – oh, speaking of, if you want to – I don't know if you want to transition yet, but speaking of O-lines we like getting hurt, how are the Seahawks doing, Jared?
Oh gosh, no, just not. We endorse nobody on this podcast. Everybody sucks. Everybody's garbage.
Oh man,
nobody plays good football anymore. How about that though? we almost skipped over the Rams, man. When we
Oh
did our
no!
preview. That would have been such a bad look on us because all we said were nice things about the Rams, and then they win.
And then they did it. They won in quite the fashion.
Yeah, Avila and McClendon look great, man. Those look like solid left side for and Matt Stafford was carving dudes up. It looked like he had all day to do that.
Yeah, it was just he had as much time as he wanted back there, man. It was like Caleb Williams at USC, man. He was just sitting back there taking his sweet ass time.
Yeah, it was kudos to the Rams, man. They came out and balled. And then kind of in a similar vein, because Baker Mayfield played for the Rams last year, if you remember that. Moving on to the Bucs, who beat the Vikings. Looks like they're the talent that they had all those Super Bowl wins actually came out to play on Sunday. So it was really cool to see that. I saw somebody post a clip. I think it was John Ledyard who used to cover the Bucs. He had a clip of Vita Vea just like destroying two gaps, but it wasn't like it was like an A and B gap. Like he was all the way over on an outside zone run, just absolutely crushing people. So that was pretty awesome. So kudos. I mean, the Vikings don't have a bad pass rush. They have Danielle Hunter and stuff. For the fact that the Bucs O-line was able to get some offense going, kudos to them, man.
Yeah, that group held up really well. I was honestly a little surprised because I know we did not talk well about the Bucs or the Saints, to be quite honest. But I think they held up really well. It's always fun. I always forget how fun to watch Vita Vea is until he pops up on my screen for whatever reason it might be.
Right?
Holy shit, he is still doing it, man. He is still doing it.
Dude, he's a killer, man. He's been so good for so long.
Man, just a great guy to have on your unit, man.
What else we got? Let's stay in the NFC South because the Panthers played the Falcons, and those trenches were thumping, man. They were beating the snot out of each other.
You talked about Avila, man. It's like we got to talk about Zavala in there. He looked strong. He looked strong in the NFL, man.
And those are like the Falcons got huge in the offseason in the trenches. And the fact that he was holding up and like doing so well against like Calais Campbell and all those guys on the inside. Zavala looked like a dude. Like, he looked like a dude.
That's always one of my biggest concerns. Like, when you're watching film, like I've talked about all the time, where you want these guys to pop off the screen when you're watching the college film, especially if they're not, like, from these really big schools. I mean, I know NC State's no schmuck, but, like, you really want to see them, like, really flash against some of these other teams that they're playing. And Zavala, his strength always, like, shined to me. But I was like, I always had the doubt in my mind where it's like, even with Avila, I'm like, is this strength going to translate seamlessly, or are we going to see a drop and he's got to refigure that out? And both of those guys really just, they look strong, and they still have a great anchor. They still have a great base. They still have nice power. Like, it's just, that's the prospect I watched and I wanted you to be, and you're being exactly what I wanted you to be.
Yeah, it's great when you see, like, you're right. Like, the transition is pretty smooth.
I just think that's the biggest thing, man.
Yeah, it's finding the guys that can do that. Like, because it's such a hard, like, it's the level of competition. I don't think people realize what a step up it really is.
Well, that's like the thing with, like, looking at these, like, college prospects and trying to project them and how are they going to do and rank them and whatever we all do with all these college kids. Like, it's just like, it's always the question week one, and even in the preseason, like, hey, is this guy going to pan out, or is he going to be a bust purely because of something that I couldn't even see? Because I thought his college film looked fine, and it's always it feels good to, like, be like, oh, that guy's still good. Woo, dodge that. Right.
I don't look like a fool this time.
Don't got to eat that take.
I didn't say San Francisco was going to die. I got one more game before we talk about Sunday Night Football. I want to say that the Chargers run game looks legit. That was pretty fun. I wish they had a different, like, a just more, like, all around back that was more exciting. But the Chargers run game looks so much more improved since they're healthy.
Well, it's always fun. I'm glad Slater's back. I missed him. It's always a blast to watch for
Johnson back on the left side. Corey Lindsey's back. Got what is his name? He's got a Trey Pipkins. It's a great name. Sawyer on the right side, and then you got Trey Pipkins. They look good, man. It was fun to watch.
Like that line should be good, but it's just like they could not stay. They got like third stringers last year. Like it's good, and I've been excited to watch Johnson next to Slater, man. That's such a great duo, man.
And like Miami's front is no joke, but I need to see the Chargers consistently. Like I don't want to jump on. We don't want to give them the stamp of approval. We don't want to give anybody.
I don't want to do that anyway. From what happened,
we're done with the stamps of approval.
Stamping a little too hard, apparently. But Jalen Phillips though for the Dolphins. Jalen Phillips had a little bit of a game over there.
Yeah, he was. I think my edge 2 that year. It was him and Azeez Ojulari, and Phillips is really showing that he was probably the best in the class.
Yeah, he's a freaking guy, man. But let's talk about this competitive game we watched last night, Jared.
It was not. Those were not the words I would use.
The nail biter.
When we were doing our rundown, we were adding all of our notes at the same time, and we both put for our unit of the week the Cowboys defensive line, because I don't think there was a more locked in unit than we saw from the Cowboys defensive front last night. They came out and just absolutely and immediately harassed Daniel Jones. And then they did it for all 4 quarters. It was beautiful. They had such a good rotation. They were getting all kinds of guys getting pressure. It was just like a symphony of defensive pressure.
One, it's like I was watching the game with my wife, and she would just like looked over at me, and she started asking me like who the most sacked quarterback in NFL history was. She thought we were going to hit some benchmark. She's like, that Daniel Jones is sitting back there soaking wet and just abused after that game. Like that's a game where you get in the locker room after the game just sad. Like I can't believe I just went out and did that for an hour.
Yeah.
But I think we need to talk about the right side of this Giants O-line, man. You got Evan Neal over there who has not impressed, I think is reasonable to say, in his first year, now first game of his second year.
Yeah, I was pretty high on Neal. He was my OT2 in his class, and it's just one of those things where he has all the physical tools, and you're still kind of waiting for him to put it all together. It's just like you'll see some of these beautiful flashes of like pure dominance, and then just an absolute relapse on the next rep, and you're like, come on, man, just string some of these together. So I definitely want to dive into the film of this one, because I think pretty highly of the Giants O-line and their O-line makeup. Like I want to see it succeed. But man, I think that the Cowboys have just literally become the most physical, and they're just a buzzsaw, man. You do not, they like, if your O-line is a wall, the Cowboys defensive line is just like one of those machines with chains spinning that just like will demolish anything. Like it doesn't matter if it's rock, if it's made out of wood, if it's brick or clay or metal, like the chains are just gonna break.
Going away. They're ripped apart. No, the Cowboys are a scary team to play this year. I know it's like you want to overact to week 1, but like we knew this. We knew this coming in, that this Cowboys unit was gonna be good. I didn't know it was gonna annihilate teams. I really honestly hope it continues, because it was kind of fun to watch. I mean, they did it on special teams, they did it on defense. Their offense just could have done whatever they wanted tonight. They wouldn't have been wrong. So
yeah,
it was just fun to watch, man.
Their depth is so scary. Like I feel like they can sustain this. Like it doesn't feel like it's something that's just gonna like peter off at the end of the season.
Well, that's the value of having like these high rotation teams that can have 8, 9, 10 guys that they can just cycle in and out. And that's where it's like they pulled all the starters near the end of the game, and they were still like nothing changed, because they've been playing since the first quarter. Like it was just fun. Teams like that are just the units that are built well are just so fun to watch, and they're effective, and that's why they're fun to watch.
Yeah. Do you have any? This is going to come out after Monday Night Football, but do you have any predictions for Monday Night Football?
I said this at work today, but I want the Jets to win. But if the Bills lose, I'll be disappointed in the Bills.
All right.
That's how I feel overall. However, I'm excited to watch. Is Osiris going to play?
I think so. I think he's the starter at left guard, right guard.
He's a guy that I was really low on, and I think the Bills were the perfect fit for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to see how that goes. That's the main thing I think I'm going to be watching tonight.
I think I was talking to my wife about this.
Our poor wife.
I just bounce my stupid takes at her all the time. She's like, "Why do you talk to me about this?" But I think Dalton Kincaid is like a perfect wrinkle to take on the Jets because he's just got so much size and stuff in the middle of the field. I think that's where they can really attack, especially because they're so aggressive in their front.
Yeah.
But I think this is just going to be a sloppy, like 10-sack game. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring or anything. Like I think it might. I think so highly of both of these defensive lines. They both have such great depth and rotation. Like, and these offensive lines have a lot of new pieces, a lot of pieces that are kind of questionable. Like, I think these D lines are just going to get after them today.
Yes, I expect it to be low scoring, and I'm excited to see how they use. I just forgot his name.
Kincaid?
No, the Jets edge rusher.
Will McDonald?
Will McDonald.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how they use him because, like we talked about, he's a great changeup for that unit. And I'm excited to see what he's able to do and how productive he's able to be on obvious. I don't think he's a starter for them on the snaps that he's going to get in this rotation. I'm excited to see what he can do. So, and Quinton Williams is freaking good at football, so that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's gonna be real fun. I think tonight's gonna be a good trench matchup.
Yeah.
Now, let's get to college football, the best football, because it's so crazy. There's a lot more craziness this weekend. Maybe a little bit more in line with like the rankings and stuff than last week. Let's see. Let's start. Let's start with El Asico. El Asico. Iowa versus Iowa State. The tradition, unlike any other. You bet the under, and then you pucker your butt for that one quarter. Both teams decide to play football, and then you're in the clear afterwards. So this year's edition had one first quarter of action, and then everybody freaked out and thought that the over was going to hit halfway through the game.
I'm telling you, the second quarter of that game is just a bettor's worst nightmare because they always get all I don't know what it is. They get excited coming into halftime, and it's like, oh no, we're gonna remember what kind of football we play here. But that's a game that is just a blast every time they play it. It's kind of like the special the armed forces games or the Army Navy, and it's just like, oh, I know the under is gonna hit. But then you get a couple big plays, and you're like, wait a second, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? But they always remember who they are. They'll always remember.
What was I going to say? Oh, my gosh, I just lost it. Iowa, instead of firing their offensive coordinator. Wow, I'm really struggling with words today, man.
Right now, buddy.
Their offensive coordinator last year, who had a historically low scoring season, they put it in his contract that he had to score like 325 points this season. So he is already under that pace. Mind you, Iowa scored a defensive touchdown on Saturday, and they still couldn't hit the 25-point margin needed for this guy to keep his job. Last week, he hit 24 points. So Brian Ferentz better figure it out real quick because we're about to hit Big Ten play.
Can I just tell you that's my favorite contract stipulation or whatever you want to call it? That's the best thing ever. I saw that post come out and I was like, that is honestly legendary. That you have to try and score points as the offensive coordinator for a D1 university.
Neither team looked great. It's just it's never a fun football game to watch. It's why it's called El Asico.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun in the bad way.
It
I
is.
gotta get to whatever gets
It's
you.
a
But I
sickos
have
game.
a game I want to bring up that I don't know. I hope we talk about. But it was
Go
my
ahead.
favorite. What?
Go ahead. Let's talk about it. We don't have to linger on El Asico.
This Miami game was a freaking disaster. I watched it from start to finish, and that was probably the hardest football game. It was like a train wreck, man. I couldn't turn it off because I loved watching it so much, but that was horrible football.
I didn't watch much of it. I caught a little bit towards the end because it took me so long to realize that Javion Cohen and McKinley Jackson were playing against each other. Yeah. And I just completely like brain farted and didn't want to watch it again. So we were talking about it earlier. I'm not going to do it. We're going to, I didn't watch much of it. It really looked like Miami was in control of that. I really want to talk about the SEC West in general because we talked about it being wide open because all of these teams were pretty evenly ranked. We didn't realize it's because they would all be equally bad.
This is not.
It was like LSU lost last week to Florida State, and we were like, yeah, Florida State's a good team. It's no big deal. And then Alabama comes out, and their offense and defense looked atrocious against Texas. Texas came into Tuscaloosa and beat the britches off of Alabama. They played Alabama-style football against Alabama, and it was very fun to watch.
No, like you said, we thought this was going to be like a nice competitive group of football teams, and it apparently is going to be who sucks the least at the least at the end of the year. Like it's just I have been so amazed. I don't know if we've talked about it, but the Pac-12 dominance that they've been showing in their final season and the lack of quality football out of the SEC has been probably one of the most fun things to follow this football season in college football.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's wild. The only SEC West team that we said that we liked that won this past week was Ole Miss against Tulane, which you kind of have to put an asterisk behind because Michael Pratt, Tulane's quarterback, didn't play. And their backup didn't do super hot. He really struggled moving the ball against the field, and like he held on too long and made his line look kind of bad, but other than that, I still believe in Tulane. Their playoff chances are done.
Yeah, the road to the playoff has unfortunately ended.
Yeah.
But it's been so crazy to me. That's why I think the first few weeks of college football are the best because it's like you really have no idea what's going out there. You have like your preseason rankings, you have all this, that, and the other. But you get out there for these first like week 0 through 2 or 3, and it's just like, what are we watching right now? Some of these teams feel like they have an agenda to score the least amount of points possible. Then some of these defenses, they're just going crazy right now. Like it is just college football is a blast, man. I love watching college football, and I'm glad I have you to like validate what I'm seeing because it's just like, man, some of this stuff is just like, oh, I didn't expect that.
Well. Through my film study, like I watch hundreds of college football games every year. So I kind of have like this built up, like just kind of like tuition's for college.
Paying your tuition. That's good.
Yeah, pay your tuition. So yeah, like I watch enough college football to where I think that I know things, and then week 0 happens. I'm like, oh yeah, it's college football. Nothing is sacred.
Nobody knows anything about college football. Nobody, not a single person.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about Alabama, Texas a little bit more. Alabama, they have 3 new starting offensive linemen, and it looked like it. Like Texas, they use a heavy D-line rotation, and a lot of those guys played last year. And Texas had a pretty good year last year. They had 2 of those defensive prospects drafted. And I think the best of all of them last year was T'Vondre Sweat, and he absolutely ate during this game. The broadcast was like talking about all of the beef Alabama had in the middle of their offense, and T'Vondre Sweat just did not care. He was throwing dudes around. He was running. It was absolutely a dominant performance. I'm super excited to dive into that film. Not only that, Texas's O-line held up extremely well against Alabama's D-line. I don't think Alabama has the same kind of D-line rotation they've been accustomed to the past couple of years. Losing Will Anderson and Byron Young, that really hurt them. It looked like they were really struggling up the middle with the runs and stuff. It was not real Alabama-y.
How do you feel that? Wow. What were your thoughts on top prospect JC Latham, right tackle?
Latham?
Yeah.
He's the best lineman on Alabama's O-line right now.
That feels like a backhanded compliment at this point. I guess we don't.
Well, it's not his fault. Like, he's gonna look fantastic by default because he's the one of the most experienced. Him and McLaughlin, who's their center. But McLaughlin's undersized. He's 6'1", 300 pounds. Like, the rest of that line is like at least 6'5", 340. And I think Latham is probably the best mover, the best athlete, the most experienced. Like, all of that stuff pops whenever you're focusing on him. And I think I just need to, for him, I need to dive into the film to see if that consistency is there. Cause I have such a hard time like paying attention, like constantly during broadcast to like one single player. Like, I usually like will try to focus on the whole trenches, but when I'm able to watch the all 22, I can really hone in on focus on one player. I even struggle to watch other players. Like if like two prospects are on the same line, I'll watch one at a time because I can't do two at a time. So Latham, I am going to say confidently he's the best player they have on that O-line. Maybe even that offense.
Yeah, that's not a take, to be honest. That's very legitimate. But what do you got next on the docket here, Jared?
Kansas ruined my first big parlay of the college football season. We shouted them out, said they were a Big 12 title contender, and then they went out and beat a Big 10 team. They went out and whooped Illinois on Friday night. Fantastic game from Jalen Daniels, and Kansas State's D-line looked legit. They were putting a lot of pressure on Illinois' O-line, and it was fun.
And it's a blast to watch some of these college, like, that's what I love. So I've talked about it. I love to hate watching college defensive film. It's so, like, some of these teams get so chaotic with their fronts and they do all this weird stuff. But I will say, watching as like just a fan watching a football game, it's fun to watch these teams that just apply constant pressure. And like, it feels like every single offensive player, like, holy crap, what this defense is all over you. Like, you have to find a way to get out of this. And that's what it felt like all game long.
Yeah. Shout out to Buffalo again. They're legit. I'm going to go ahead and say Nebraska had a really good plan in the first half to kind of mitigate all of Colorado's explosiveness. And they were doing a lot of stuff up the middle to kind of confuse Colorado's O-line. And Nebraska's got some beefy dudes in the middle of that defense. They got some big dudes, and they were taking it to Colorado, but shout out to Colorado for not giving up, and they ended up wearing down Nebraska and poured it on in the second half.
I posted about it this weekend, but I think there's going to be a lot of quality prospects that come off of this Colorado O-line. They look really good. There are a lot of older guys, a lot of grad transfers in that group. But I'm really they look very consistent. That's again I'm big floor guy. Yeah. But like that's what you're looking for out of your prospects. You're looking for that consistency and then just that execution. That's something that this whole Colorado team embodies. And that's why I think there's gonna be some great sleepers. I'm excited to watch this draft season.
Yeah, I am also excited because, like you said, they execute at such a high level with Colorado. Like, they are super impressive to watch as a unit. Let me see if I got any more college football notes. Oregon, backdoor cover. Thank you, Oregon. Oh my God, I was sweating bullets. They were losing to Texas Tech with under 2 minutes. They kick a field goal to go up 1 point, and the spread was -6.5. And I was like, man, another bet, and I'm not going to lose. And then they had a pick six with Texas Tech trying to come back and win it. I was like, oh, thank you, Ducks.
And all of Jared's neighbors knew that he had money on that game in that moment right there.
my wife was like, why are you cheering for this game? I was like, they're covering. Look,
Hey, good teams win, great teams cover, Jared.
Great
Don't
teams
you ever
cover.
forget that.
But Oregon and Utah, Pac-12 games or Pac-12 teams that looked good the first week that kind of struggled against teams that did not look good the first week. Hopefully they come back next week. I think Oregon's got Hawaii. Enjoy it. Do the lays. Have fun. Hula your ass off. Score tons of points. And then Utah, I think
Utah wanted to lose that game so bad, man.
They really did, man. Oh my goodness. Baylor, like that was I feel like Baylor dragged them down to the mud. Like, they pulled them down to their level.
They're gonna play like us today.
All right. So we're gonna start our next segment because it involves college football. We're gonna go every week. We want to shout out a unit. Like it could be a person because we've seen some units in the trenches. There's some absolute, I would say Vince Wilfork would be the definition. If we had units, like Vince Wilfork is a unit in the trenches. But we want to shout out the units of the week. So it could be a person, an entire offensive or defensive unit, or anything related to the subject. So of course, with our first unit of the week, mine goes to Mother Nature, who delayed almost every single noon game for college football on the Eastern Seaboard. She caused so many rain delays, absolutely shutting down football games for hours. All me and Parker wanted to do was watch Notre Dame and NC State at the noon slate. It's all we wanted to do, but Mother Nature said no.
Absolutely not.
No. But if we actually need a real unit, the Irish O-line continues to dominate. They are such an impressive unit. I feel like they've really taken a step in this new offensive system, and it's really fun to watch. I can't wait for a couple of weeks when they play Ohio State. So shout out to the Irish and shout out to Mother Nature.
Dude, that was, Anyway, I'm glad I'm not on Eastern time like all of you folks, but the weather on the East Coast this week in NFL it was crazy. Wild. Weird weather.
Mm-hmm.
My college unit, the guy that I liked the best, I enjoyed watching the most was this center out of NC State. I did not look up his name because I'm an animal. I was hoping that Jared would come through, but I love what he did all game.
I'm sorry.
NC State's center.
The center, Dylan McMahon. Yeah. I need to watch him. He's pretty high on my priority list. He's probably going to be the next interior guy that I watch for my film threads. So yeah, I am really excited.
Everything I want to see out of an interior O-line prospect. He had great balance, great hands, great hand fire, great feet. Like it was just he was
great
like
hair. Doesn't he have
great
a
hair?
name?
That's the most important part. But I was like, man, this guy looks legit, and that's where when I talk about those guys that you want to see pop, man. I turn on the NC State game because I'm like, NC State usually got some decent prospects that come out, and we're just going tackle guard center. We had Icky, we got Zavala, and now we're here in the middle, man. I'm just excited to watch him this year.
Absolutely. Another thing I want to talk about, it's really not really football related. YouTube TV, when this whole delay thing went down, I really found out the 4-screen approach. We need an inside guy. We need somebody to help customize our own experiences because like you would flip. First of all, you'd change the game to what it said it was, and it would be like some unrain delayed game. But later on in the day, I wanted to watch UC Pitt. Alabama, Texas was going on at the same time. The end of the A&M Miami game was going on, and there was one more.
I'm sure what was in that. There was so many games in that window, I can't even guess.
I know, but there's one more that I really wanted, and there was like 1,000 of the 4 screens, and I could not find the exact right combination that I wanted. It was so infuriating. I was like, just let me make my own.
Not having to create your own 4-screen is the most, or even dual. Just let me pull up 2 games, anything. Let me pull my own games because it's always 2 or 3 games you actually want to watch, and it's like, what the hell is this 4th game? Why are we including this one? What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, so YouTube, get your shit together.
Get it together over there.
And we're about to put this on YouTube, so they're about to demonetize anything.
You're doing great, guys. You're doing great.
Speaking of which, we have our very first film room. So for audio listeners, you'll hear a very weird cut to the end of the show at about this point. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up our film room for the week. We are going to go ahead and we'll have the whole podcast with the film room. We'll have just the film room, and then we'll have the audio without the film room. So we'll have all of the flavors of this podcast for you to, it'll be, what's the ice creams where it's like chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla? It'll be like one of those.
Neapolitan?
Neapolitan. Is that what it is?
That doesn't feel good, but I'm going to go with it.
All right, we'll fuck it. We'll go with it. That's what it is. We're the Neapolitan of podcasts.
I love it.
So we'll catch all the audio listeners on the other side. I'm gonna pause the podcast, so you'll see a weird cut too. Maybe I'll just cut this whole part out. Who fucking knows? So pause this and pull up my screen. All right, everybody, welcome into the first edition of the PB&J Trench Talk Film Room. As you can see, we have film pulled up, and we are very excited to talk about a draft prospect. My first film room is just going to be kind of a piggyback of what I used to do last season when I would stream on Twitch and break down prospect film. So I figured, why not do something I've already done probably 5 or 6 times with one of my best friends, Parker. So we're going to break down. This is Brandon Copeland, left tackle from TCU. He's a redshirt sophomore, I believe. Oh, gosh, I'm already screwing this up, man.
I like it. I like it. Just go with it. Just go with it.
He's a senior. What the F? Why does it?
You were close.
There was something. I think his R-Lad said he was a redshirt sophomore. Whatever. He started 23 games for the Horned Frogs. He flashed a bunch during my Steve Avila watches last year. And let's just get right into it, because the first thing I want to talk about, something that always pops up on film, is his finish. Look at this, man. This was like the second play of the game. He is setting the tone for that TCU O-line. He plays nasty. He's big. He's 6'6", 320. That size pops up, and he uses it to absolutely bully dudes. Let's move to the next one. That was kind of like he kind of just fell on him. This next one,
Edge gave up, and he was like, "Nope, you're mine still."
Yeah. Oh man, I got slow-mo because I got so much stuff going on right now. This is pass pro is really fun. He's got great length. He's got good feet. He's a two-hand puncher, which kind of bugs me, but he's very good at resetting. His punches are well placed, and man, they got some pop to him. In this clip, you're going to see another thing that I really like about him is he's smart. He picks up stunts and blitzes, even like late pressures. Kansas in this game did a lot of it, and he is not fooled by any of it. If you look here, this nickel, he's not even looking at the wide receiver. So Copeland already knows they're trying to run some kind of game over here. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and you'll see he's flashing the inside hand here to help inside. He's playing inside out. He's so the man over him cuts inside, and his eyes are outside looking for any loopers or, as we see in this clip, pressure. And this punch, bam. He's so quick to engage. And like he plays with his hands ready. So when he fires, dude, it's lightning fast. Look, his hand is perfect. It is in that armpit. It is locked in, and then bam, you get the finish, man. You get the finish on the DB.
I knew it was coming.
This is just more of a normal. I like this rep. He cuts off an inside spin here. Just watch his feet, man. For someone as big as he is, he's got such light feet, man. You can see his movement skills are just good. And then he hits it with a strong punch.
He uses that extension so well, and that's something that I know everyone's the whole big rage lately has been, the independent hands thing. Don't be a two-handed puncher. But if you're able to be an effective, efficient two-handed puncher, it develops so much more in your power, right? Because If you're able to deliver accurate, tight punches with both hands simultaneously, and you're able to replace and work back in and maintain that good posture, that good leverage, I mean, it'll elevate your game. But that's why a lot of these guys have to turn into individual hand punchers just to protect themselves because they don't use their hands well. And that's where I can appreciate this so much more.
Yeah, I used to be real hard on two-hand punchers, but I think with all my film study and all my evaluation, I really kind of appreciate it for guys to generate power. And it with Coleman here, or is it? Oh my God, is it Copeland or Coleman?
You said Copeland earlier.
Oh gosh, it's Coleman. I know I said Copeland early. His name? Oh gosh. Now I'm all kinds of flustered. Brandon Coleman.
77 for the Frogs.
For the Frogs. I have a TCU shirt. I'm gonna have to wear it one of these times. I should have worn it tonight.
You didn't wear it tonight.
But I didn't want to give anything away. Here we see him against a first round pick. He played three first round picks last year. Or I didn't watch the Georgia game. I'm going to tell you, there's no national championship. I couldn't find any film on it. I have this Texas Tech film, so he's playing Tyree Wilson. I've got the next game we're going to see is Kansas State. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is what's his main opponent, and then the third game was Michigan. And he goes up against Mozzie Smith and Chris Jenkins a bunch in that game, and that's really where you see his power. Oh man, I lost my window. All right, we're back. We're back. So this is yep. I don't remember what order I put these in. I know the clip when they start playing. This is it's a deuce block, and he climbs to the second level, and he just fun stuff, man. He's an excellent run blocker. Run blocker, man.
Oh, I love it. I love the motor, man.
So you're probably wondering, like, well, we've seen him throw dudes around, kind of moving in a straight line. How's he move in space? Can he pull? Does he? I think he's a sneaky athlete.
Look at him go!
I think he's a sneaky
athlete. Power.
Yeah, man, and he comes with bad intentions all the time. Yep, there's a finish on Anudike-Uzomah. Tested, and he cuts off the inside move here. Has help inside. And then he's got the shoulder already, so he knows he's good to finish.
His feet are really good. Like in that last clip, like that's where you talk about being smart, and it's just he's able to close down that space between the guard, and he's able to like predict what these ends are doing before they make their move, and that's something very underrated because I tell my guys all the time, you have to block with your feet and your hips, not your hands. That's obviously where holding calls come from, but you're gonna whiff a lot if you're just like swinging at guys. But when you're able to like move your feet, even those minor adjustments when you're mid block and you're able to just cut guys off, keep yourself in front of them, and just do all these like the minutia of the position. That's the stuff that just it's hard to appreciate because it's hard to see. But like that's why I love the all 22 stuff. It's just like he's just so good at positioning his body in the right way every time.
Yeah, he does need to work on his like general footwork. Like, He does take a lot of false steps, especially like trying to cut off inside moves and stuff before they happen. I'd like to see him, but like that kind of stuff can be cleaned up. So like not too worried about it, but I would like to see he's back at TCU this year. He has time to clean it up before the process is over. So we can really still improve. He has a lot of room for improvement technically. I think after watching these 4 games, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he snuck into the back of the first round. I think he can play guard or tackle at the next level. I think he's good enough to do both. He's played left tackle his whole career at TCU. I love this clip, man. Getting him on his horse. Yeah, and just pushing little guys around. That's what you love to see, man.
How big you say he is?
6'6", 320.
Oh, he's gonna be a mauler at guard. He's gonna be a
yeah. He's definitely like the bigger mold for a guard, but I don't see any problem with I personally don't see any problem with him moving in there. Somebody can tell I'd be more than happy to listen to any arguments to the contrary because I think he can play tackle.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people see him as a guard.
Coleman, you are an Eagle.
Right. I was just super impressed by his grip strength here. He does reset his hands a little bit, but he can stop. I feel like he can stop anybody.
Well, watch, he's great at generating that extension and then working on the lift and then getting belly to belly with the defender. And that's something that's like, you see a lot of these stronger guys. That's where they talk about arm length, where you see kind of like these, like the Skaronskis of the world, right? Where they got great feet and hips, but they just can't generate that lift. And that's where that length really comes in hand, where you can just get those guys on their tiptoes and then bring your power into them. And that's, it's just fun.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, and I think it's kind of, for me at least, it's kind of like an older way of thinking of people playing too tall. Like, there's just tall guys that play on the O-line. I think as long as you can use your size and your length that comes with being that tall, like, that's more of what I want to see. Like, I want to see, like you're saying, use your length, use your extension, get belly to belly with those guys, because that's where all of the power comes from. And then this is going to be the last clip for the film room. Just hanging on to Chris Jenkins, one of Bruce Feldman's. I think he's like a top 5 freak on the freak list. I really just wanted to show that, like, Brandon Coleman, he has played against some of the top competition in college football. He's shown great movement ability. He's got great physical traits, good processing. I don't see. This is one of the, you're gonna love this, high floor player with Brandon Coleman. I just don't see a transition unless it's something off field where he wouldn't be able to perform at an adequate level at minimum in the NFL. So I came away. It was so funny. We talked last week that I was going to do my film room on Laiatu Latu, edge defender from UCLA, but I didn't have enough film. So I watched these 4 games of Brandon Coleman and came away absolutely stunned how good he was, especially because I've watched probably 10 prospects in this coming offensive tackle class. And I think he is closer to guys like to Joe Alt than he is to guys like Jordan Morgan in my book. So I came away a big fan of Brandon Coleman.
No, and just going back, and I only watching a few clips because I have slacked on my summer scouting duties, but don't you worry, I'll be back. But no, the things you love to see, again, just talking about the power and the two-handed punch, that's great and all, but being able to use that length, and like we talked about, the feet aren't great out the block, but he's really good at running them and finishing plays. And that's where a lot of these guys will really pop in college, because they're able to finish plays when like I talked about in that very first clip. Your edge player, they got sealed out. They know they're not making the play. They're going to give up. As an O-lineman, that's where you make your money, man. That's where you finish plays. You get him knocked down. You get on to the next level. And he's always looking for work. And like you said, he comes with deadly intent, man. He has bad intent everywhere he goes, and he's able to move really well. And like that's why I love his potential as a guard. I don't know what his ceiling would be as a tackle. I'd have to watch more, obviously, but just from what you see there with the build, with what he's able to do already coming into his final year of college, like, he's got the floor. He's got the floor. I love the floor, but man, I'm excited to see what he's got, man. I gotta get into this film.
Yeah, I think his ceiling at this point is entirely dependent on how much more consistency he can show this season. Probably against lesser competition. I don't think he's going to see the same caliber of rushers he saw this past year. Just a little more consistency, and we got to see what his athletic testing. He would be a perfect Senior Bowl invite guy. Yeah. I think he's probably somebody who's going to run up boards here. I feel like he's very Darnell Wright-ish. Like that kind of, I could see that kind of trajectory for him. The only difference is Darnell Wright didn't have as much competition at the top of his class.
Well, that's the thing with the draft is there's times where these teams can really get some steals just because the class is loaded, and there's times where it's well, I guess we're either targeting that position super early, way too early, or we're just missing out on it this year. And that's where it gets really fun when you're really focusing on certain position groups and seeing the level of talent that'll come in. I feel like this is a great O-line class in general, but especially a great tackle class. So that's where I wouldn't be surprised if he gets picked up and gets converted to a guard purely because they don't need a tackle if they're grabbing him. So I'm excited, man. That was a fun minute we just had there.
Yeah, the more I dive into this offensive line class, I continue to find guys that have kind of blown me away compared to the last 2 years that I've evaluated these guys. So it's really exciting stuff. And that was our film room. So we're going to try to do those every week. It may not be possible, but we're definitely going to bring you a handful of them throughout the season. And I can't wait for them, man. That was a lot of fun.
Hey, you know how much I love watching film with you, Jared. You already know. I was in the Twitch comment or chat, whatever it was.
It's so much better when there's someone I could actually like sit there and fling ideas off of instead of trying to talk to myself for an hour. That's maybe I could host a radio show next.
They gotta take callers, man.
Yeah. So let's see. I want to do a quick preview of next week before we get out of here. We got a couple of big games we want to shout out. Let's start with the NFL. You have LA and Tennessee. Which LA?
Oh man, I'm an idiot. I've disappointed myself.
Is it the Rams? Because no, it's the Chargers. Why are you calling them the LA Chargers? That's your fault.
You don't know, man. I was in a hurry. I didn't get my preview stuff done. I slacked this week and I had to throw it in. Jared took all the good NFL games. He's got 4 games over there on his list. And I was like, well, what else can I pick through and try and find?
No, you picked a great one. We were just talking about how good the Chargers O-line looked. Yeah. Would be a great test for them going against Tennessee.
I don't know how you missed it over there, man, but I found a sleeper. I'm excited to watch this game. This O-line, the Titans always have a stout D-line. I'm excited. I'm excited for this LA at Tennessee.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
We're gonna shout out Seattle at Detroit. That is the PB&J Trench Talk Bowl. So our eyes are gonna be on that one.
Potentially featuring Jason Peters. He was up in Seattle today.
Is he?
He was.
That's exciting. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
We were talking about how they need a swing tackle. If the other two can get healthy and have Peters swinging around, that'd be dope.
Nothing like a Hall of Famer just hanging out, man.
Right? What else we got? Baltimore, Cincy, and Browns, Steelers, AFC North going at it. Those are just going to be slobber knockers. They're going to be real fun to watch.
AFC North football match is going to be ground and pound. It's going to be a boxing match in a telephone booth, man. I'm excited to watch it. Browns, Steelers, Monday Night Football is going to be really fun, especially like we talked about earlier with DeJuan Jones being able to get in there. He's going to get a lot of reps this season. And just being able to see what he's able to do against this really high-level Steelers front. I mean, we already know that other Browns O-linemen are very high-quality players. I'm interested to see how he works with this unit throughout the season. I think that's a great matchup for me and you personally on primetime football.
Hot take, DeJuan Jones is going to shut down TJ Watt.
I like it. He's got all the tools to do it.
And the last game we want to shout out is Jets Cowboys, because those poor Jets offensive linemen are going to get crushed, but the Jets D line might keep them in the game. So that'll be real fun to watch.
Man, Mekhi Becton's got a storm coming.
It's a poor guy, man. I feel bad for any O-line unit that's got to deal with that. Next week's college football is kind of light on the content. There's not a lot of big matchups. It's like the last week before everybody kind of starts getting into conference play. So I only have a couple of games. Minnesota, North Carolina, sneaky good game. I think that's going to be all about Drake May versus the really good defense of Minnesota.
Yeah.
South Carolina, Georgia. South Carolina had that absolute stinker of a game against North Carolina. And they're one of the few people that they're gonna get crushed by Georgia. I was gonna try to entertain that for so long.
I was super excited to see where you were gonna take that. I can't lie. And then
after that first game, man, I really thought South Carolina's O-line was better than that, but they're not. The night game for next Saturday is Tennessee and Florida. So I have a stupid thing that I kind of want to shout out. I'm not much of a money line bettor. I like spreads and I like points totals. I like living in the margins, like I like taking
where you make money though.
I like throwing them. I like throwing hand grenades, it's just hit something close, So the only money line bets I've made the past 2 weeks were Florida teams that were dogs and had plus odds. Florida is the next one. They're playing at home in Gainesville. they're playing this Tennessee team that struggled against Austin Peay the first half this past week. So if you want to ride with me, everybody, I took the Florida money line. Let's ride. Let's see these Gators. I will be like this Saturday night. So go Gators.
You got to sell me on Florida, man. I don't see it, so I'm rooting for you.
They played a tough game already is really what I'm sticking with. So maybe they're a little bit more prepared. BYU, Arkansas, sneaky game of the week. I'm real excited to see BYU. Arkansas has like a really good coached O-line. BYU has some dude in the trenches. I think that game's going to be closer than a lot of people think. It's probably going to be one of the more interesting ones of the weekend. And then finally, my last one that I got, the backyard brawl, Pitt versus West Virginia. I don't have the only prospect I have to watch in that game would be Zach Frazier, West Virginia's center, one of the top centers in the draft. I think he may even be the top center. I need to see his testing and stuff and his actual measurables, but his film is incredible. I really am high on Zach Frazier. So if anybody wants to keep an eye on the backyard brawl, that's an exciting matchup this weekend as well. And I think that's all we've got for you guys this week. This is pretty awesome. We kind of hit the time exactly like we wanted. This episode 1, feeling good. I'm feeling good.
I felt really good, man. that was like exactly the mark we were going for. Like I feel like we have to like ruin it somehow here.
Well, we're gonna do it by fumbling the end like we always do.
Oh yes, this is my favorite part. It's like ending a phone call with a client, man. I'm terrible at doing that. I always will be, I think.
What, you got any good closers?
No, I don't. That's the problem, Jared. That's the problem.
So I'm a mechanic, and sometimes I'll fuck with the parts guys. I have to call down for my parts, and sometimes I'll mess with them. And right before I hang up with them, I'll go, "Love you," and I'll hang up.
I love that because, like, I don't know what it is. I don't say bye. I'm always like, "See you later" or "See you soon" or whatever it is, or like "Have a good one." And so, like, I always fall into this awkward, like, back and forth at the end of a call where it's like, all right, see you later. And they're like, oh, yeah, you have a good one. And I'm like, yeah, you too. And then we have like an awkward, like 4-second pause. And then they're like, bye. And then that's how all my phone calls go. So don't
just hang up.
It's not a good time for anybody. I'm like, why are we still here?
No,
I usually have my phone on speaker on my desk. So I'm like working while I'm talking. So I'm like, do I like hang up now? Like, are you waiting to say something? Anyway,
yeah. Just hang up. Just hang up, man.
I just got to start being.
Don't play that game with yourself. Just hang up. You're like, who hangs up? It's me. The answer is me. Just hang up. Just take care of it. Just like we're about to hang up on this podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you all next week.